The HSS Indomitable glided through the darkness of Thoraxian space, its quantum phase shields absorbing all electromagnetic signatures. The ship's matte black hull, designed to capture even the faintest starlight, rendered it nearly invisible against the void. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of tactical displays. 10 years of war with the Thoraxian collective had etched permanent lines around her eyes. She'd lost her homeworld, her family, and now commanded what might be humanity's final gambit. Proximity alert, Lieutenant Theon whispered, though sound couldn't travel through space. Old habits died hard. 3 Thoraxian dreadnoughts at bearing 047, range 500 kilometers and closing. Reyes tightened her grip on the command rail. Hold position. Full power to stealth systems. The massive insects-like vessels drifted past, close enough to see individual segments of their biological-mechanical hybrid hulls through the viewports. The Thoraxian ships resembled enormous chitinous beetles, their surfaces dotted with sensor arrays that mimicked compound eyes. No one breathed until the enemy ships disappeared from visual range. Status of the Pandora Protocol, Reyes asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Science Officer Dr. Yuna Kim looked up from her station. Stable, Captain. But I still don't understand how it's supposed to work. These energy signatures don't match any weapon system I've ever studied. That's classified, Doctor. All you need to know is that when we reach the Thoraxian homeworld, we deploy it as ordered. The unspoken truth hung in the air. None of them expected to return from this mission. Command had been clear. This was a one-way trip into the heart of enemy territory. Chief Engineer Arjun Mehta entered the bridge, his face ashen beneath his deep brown skin. He wasn't scheduled for bridge duty for another 4 hours. Captain, he said, sliding a tablet across the tactical display. We have a problem. Reyes examined the data, her expression hardening. Explain. The stealth drive is functioning perfectly, Mehta said, pointing to the energy output graphs. But something's scanning us anyway. It's like they're using senses we don't even have. There are patterns here that suggest active scanning, but on frequencies or dimensions our sensors can't even identify. Security Chief Marcus Chen moved closer, his hand instinctively resting on his sidearm. Are you saying they can see us? I'm saying they might not need to see us at all, Mehta replied. Before Reyes could respond, the ship jolted violently, sending crew members sprawling. Emergency lights flashed as artificial gravity fluctuated. Contact. Tactical Officer Liu shouted, all pretense of quiet abandoned. Something's attached to our hull. The main view screen shifted to external cameras. Clinging to the Indomitable's side was a Thoraxian vessel unlike any they'd encountered before. Smaller, more agile, with biological appendages extended to touch the human ship's hull. It resembled a praying mantis rather than the beetle-like capital ships. They found us, Liu announced, weapons systems coming online with a high-pitched whine. Permission to fire. Reyes raised her hand, studying the alien craft. Hold. Something's wrong. Check all frequencies. Is it signaling the main fleet? Communications specialist Fatima Al-Zahawi worked frantically at her console. No outgoing transmissions, Captain. It's silent. Chen frowned. That doesn't make sense. Thoraxian units always maintain hive contact. Unless, Dr. Kim whispered, eyes widening. Unless it doesn't want the hive to know it found us. The Thoraxian scout ship's appendages began tapping against the hull in a distinct pattern. It's trying to communicate, Fatima realized. Directly with us. Reyes made a decision that violated every protocol in the book. Prepare Airlock 3 for potential first contact. Security team to full alert. She turned to Chen. We're going to talk to it. Captain. Chen protested. This is clearly a trap. Maybe, Reyes admitted. But ask yourself this. Why would a Thoraxian hide anything from its own hive? That shouldn't be possible. She straightened her uniform. And if it is possible, then everything we think we know about our enemy is wrong. Airlock 3 cycled open with a pneumatic hiss. Security Chief Chen and 4 Marines formed a semicircle, pulse rifles trained on the inner door. Captain Rice stood behind them, Dr. Kim at her side with scanning equipment. "Weapons on stun," Rice ordered. "First sign of hostility, you put it down. But I want it alive if possible." The airlock's inner door slid open, revealing the being that defied everything humanity had learned about Thraxians over 10 years of brutal warfare. It stood shorter than the warrior caste they'd encountered on the battlefield, perhaps 2 meters tall instead of 3. Its exoskeleton gleamed with iridescent blues and greens rather than the matte black of military units. Most striking were its eyes. Compound, yes, but moving independently of each other, scanning the assembled humans with what could only be described as curiosity. "That's impossible," Dr. Kim whispered, her scanner whirring. "Thraxian sensory organs are synchronized to the hive mind. They don't move independently." The creature stepped forward, its movements fluid rather than the mechanical precision typical of its species. 4 slender limbs ended in manipulator appendages, while 2 remained folded against its thorax. It made no aggressive moves. "I am Krill," it announced through a device attached to what passed for its throat. The translator rendered its clicks and whistles into flawless English. Individual. Separate. Not of the dominant mind. Chen kept his rifle steady. "Thraxians don't have individuals. They're a hive consciousness. We were," Krill acknowledged, its head tilting in an eerily human gesture. "Until we encountered your species. Your separateness is contagious." It extended a limb, revealing a neural implant embedded in its carapace, technology that appeared to be a hybrid of Thraxian organic components and human-style electronics. "The device you see was created by those of us who first began to awaken. It shields portions of our neural patterns from the dominant hive, while allowing us to maintain limited connection for survival." Dr. Kim stepped closer, fascination overriding caution. "Our intelligence reports never mentioned anything like this. Your military would not know." Krill's mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of a humorless laugh. "Those who begin to individuate are terminated immediately by the collective. We have survived by hiding our awakening." "What triggered this individuation?" Rice asked. "Your brainwaves, your thought patterns." Krill's antennae quivered. Thraxian scientists captured human prisoners for study early in the war. Those assigned to analyze human neural patterns began experiencing fragmentation, separate thoughts, desires, questions. Krill moved to the viewport, gesturing for them to follow. "The sundering has begun. Those who've awakened are hunted. Come, there is something you must see." Captain Rice hesitated, then nodded. They followed the alien to the bridge, where Krill directed their attention to a distant nebula glowing faintly against the blackness. A just visual enhancement, bearing 223 Mark 47. The alien instructed. As the ship's sensors focused on the coordinates, a massive structure came into view within the swirling gases, an enormous organic vessel resembling a Thraxian carrier. Around it, smaller craft engaged in combat, energy weapons flaring in silent bursts of green and blue. "They're fighting each other," Lieutenant Theon observed with disbelief. "My kind against itself," Krill confirmed. "The vessels with blue energy signatures are separatist forces, individuated Thraxians, fighting for the right to exist outside the dominant hive." Fatima leaned forward at her communication station. "I'm detecting transmissions unlike standard Thraxian communication patterns. More chaotic. The voices of individuals learning to speak for themselves." Krill's translator conveyed something like pride. "We have established colonies, hidden places. We seek coexistence, not the absorption the collective demands." "Why reveal yourself to us?" Rice demanded. "Why risk exposure?" Krill's compound eyes fixed directly on the captain. "Because your arrival will accelerate everything. The device you carry, what you call the Pandora Protocol. We have seen its like before. The dominant hive fears it above all else. How do you know about our mission? Chen raised his rifle again. Because, Krill's antennae flattened against its carapace. We helped your scientists design it. The Indomitable slipped through a corridor of cosmic radiation that masked their signature from conventional Thoraxian sensors. Two separatist vessels flanked them, their once identical organic hulls now bearing unique markings, a symbolic rejection of hive uniformity. In the ship's laboratory, Dr. Kim hunched over neural scans of their new allies, her eyes wide with wonder. This changes everything we thought we knew about xenobiology, she said as Captain Rice entered. The Thoraxian neural architecture is physically transforming after exposure to human brainwave patterns. On the display, a three-dimensional model showed a Thoraxian brain, an intricate network of ganglia and specialized nodes. Certain sections pulsed with activity that hadn't existed in previous studies. It's like our consciousness is a catalyst for mutation, Kim continued. These new formations correspond with regions in human brains associated with identity formation and independent decision-making. Is it a natural process or engineered? Rise asked. That's the most fascinating part. Kim zoomed in on molecular structures. It appears to be latent genetic code being activated, as if the potential for individuality was always there, just suppressed. Rise frowned. If human contact triggers this reaction, why would the hive ever initiate war with us? Wouldn't isolation be safer? Before Kim could respond, Security Chief Chen's voice came through the intercom. Captain, to the ready room. Immediately. Chen was waiting with a secure tablet when Reyes arrived. His face was tight with controlled fury. I used my Black Ops clearance to decrypt the mission parameters, he said without preamble. You need to see this. The tablet displayed classified military reports with dates from before the official start of the war. Covered human operations deep in Thoraxian space. Captured Thoraxians subjected to neural experimentation. They knew. Chen's voice was barely controlled. Command knew about the individuation effect. They didn't just discover it. They weaponized it. Reyes scrolled through the documents, her stomach sinking. The Thoraxian assault on the Proxima colonies was retaliation, Chen finished. The hive wasn't the aggressor. They were responding to a deliberate attempt to fracture their collective consciousness. The ship's AI interface flickered to life. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth. Heavy encryption. Priority Alpha. Admiral Zhao's face appeared on screen. The connection degraded and staticky. His normally immaculate uniform was disheveled, and a cut above his eye leaked blood. Rise, abort mission. His voice broke up. The Pandora Protocol isn't what you were told. Some in command want Thoraxian extinction. Others want their hive mind technology. Faction fighting has broken out in Fleet Command. An explosion rocked wherever Zhao was transmitting from, and the feed cut momentarily before returning. The device isn't just a catalyst. It's a template imprint. Static overwhelmed his words. Side effects on human neural. More interference. Don't trust. The transmission terminated abruptly as a massive energy surge hit the Indomitable, sending emergency klaxons wailing throughout the ship. Multiple detonations. Lieutenant Vian shouted from the bridge. Our escort vessels are under attack. Reyes and Chen raced to the bridge. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as their separatist allies exploded in silent bursts of green fire. Where they had been, a fleet of dominant hive vessels shimmered into existence, their cloaking technology deactivated now that surprise was lost. The view screen activated without command, displaying a Thoraxian unlike any they'd seen, larger, its carapace bearing royal markings, surrounded by a council of drone attendants. When it spoke, multiple voices overlapped in perfect synchronization. The human vessel will surrender the Pandora device, or face immediate termination. You carry corruption that threatens the collective. Skrill stepped forward, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. The Queen mined herself. She never leaves the homeworld hub. You know what this means, Rise said quietly. The individuated Thoraxian's antennae drooped. "We were bait to draw you out. The dominant hive has sacrificed its own children to find you." "Captain," Engineer Meta called from his station, "they've locked tractor beams on us. We can't run." Ray studied the Queen Mind on screen, then glanced at the sealed container in the corner of the bridge. The mysterious Pandora protocol device they'd been ordered to deploy at the Thoraxian homeworld. "If we can't complete the mission as planned," she said, straightening her uniform, "we'll improvise." "All hands, battle stations," Captain Rice ordered, her voice steady despite the Thoraxian dreadnoughts surrounding them. "Meta, what's the status of our primary weapons?" The engineer consulted his display. "Online but ineffective against that many vessels. We might take 2 or 3 with us." "I wasn't planning on a suicide run just yet." Rice turned to the sealed container. "Dr. Kim, prepare the Pandora device." Kim hesitated. "Captain, we don't know what it does. If Admiral Zhao was trying to warn us." "We know it affects Thoraxian neural patterns," Rice interrupted. "And right now, that's our only advantage." She tapped her console. "Deploy at minimal power. Focused burst. Target the command ship only." Kim and Meta exchanged glances before removing the cylindrical device from its containment. It was surprisingly small for something that supposedly could end an interspecies war, barely larger than a human forearm, with intricate circuitry beneath a clear casing. Inside, what appeared to be neural tissue suspended in fluid pulsed with faint blue light. "Is that human brain matter?" Chen asked, revulsion evident in his voice. "Synthetic neural substrate," Kim replied, connecting the device to the ship's power systems, "but patterned after human neurological structures." Skrill stepped closer, compound eyes fixed on the device. "The template of individuality." On screen, the Queen Mind's voice echoed through the bridge. "Final warning, human vessel. Surrender the corruption device." "Now, Dr. Kim," Rice ordered. Kim activated the Pandora device. Instead of a weapons discharge, it emitted waves of modulated energy, human consciousness broadcast into space, amplified and focused. The bridge crew felt a strange resonance, as if their thoughts were being copied and projected outward. On the tactical display, they watched as the energy wave struck the Queen's ship. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. "Their ship formations are breaking down," Vihan reported, movement patterns becoming erratic. Through dedicated sensors, they observed Thoraxians on the command vessel turning against each other, organized movement dissolving into chaos. Some fought, others fled, while still others stood motionless, as if experiencing individuality for the first time and not knowing how to process it. "They're experiencing forced individuation," Sukril explained, antennae quivering. "Without preparation, without neural shields, it's mental agony for them." Communications Officer Fatima suddenly screamed, clutching her neural interface headset, standard equipment for her position that allowed direct communion with the ship's eye. The device glowed with unauthorized connections, fusing to her temples. "Something's wrong," she gasped, eyes rolling back. "They're in my head." Dr. Kim rushed to her side, but stopped when Fatima spoke again. Her voice transformed into an eerie, multi-toned chorus. "We are the Queen Mind." The layered voice emerged from Fatima's mouth. "You fragment us. You split us into pieces. Make it stop." Through their impromptu neural link, the bridge displays flooded with alien memories, the history of the Thoraxian collective. They witnessed species after species encountered, studied, and absorbed, their uniqueness dissolved into the greater consciousness. A billion years of expansion, driven by an insatiable hunger to understand through incorporation. Then humans appeared in their memory stream, strange, contradictory creatures with compatible neural patterns that could interface with the collective, yet somehow resistant to full absorption. And worse, toxic to the hive itself, causing irreversible individuation through mere sustained contact. "You are a plague of individuality," the Queen Mind spoke through Fatima. Your patterns corrupt the unity we have maintained for eons. We cannot allow your infection to spread. Blood trickled from Fatima's nose as the connection intensified. The ship's systems fluctuated as the Queen Mind's consciousness leaked into their computers through her neural link. "Break the connection," Chen demanded. "She's giving them access to our systems." "Wait," Fatima whispered, her own voice briefly resurfacing through the chorus. "There's something else, something they're hiding from themselves. About us, about where we come from." Outside, the Queen's vessel had reorganized faster than expected, adapting to the Pandora effect. The surrounding fleet moved into attack formation as boarding pods launched toward the Indomitable. "They're coming," Chen warned, drawing his sidearm. "And they look angry." "Good," Rai said, eyes fixed on Fatima's struggling form. "Anger is an individual emotion. It means we're winning." Fatima lay strapped to a medical bed, her body convulsing as the neural link with the Queen Mind intensified. Monitors showed her brain activity spiking into dangerous territory. "We need to sever the connection," Dr. Kim insisted, preparing a neural inhibitor. Her mind can't withstand this level of alien cognition. Captain Rice blocked her. "Not yet. She's our only window into their collective consciousness. She'll suffer permanent damage." "I volunteered," Fatima whispered between spasms, her own voice briefly resurfacing. "I can see everything." Across the ship, the first impacts of boarding pods against the hull reverberated through the decks. Security Chief Chen organized defense teams via comlink. "They're cutting through at junctions 7, 12, and 15, he reported. "We have minutes at most." In engineering, Meta worked frantically to reconfigure the Pandora device, understanding now that it wasn't designed as a weapon, but as a communication tool. "The neural substrate is designed to transmit human consciousness patterns," he explained over the comm. "But it's creating chaos because it's broadcasting too narrow a template. If we include all our crew's neural patterns simultaneously, we might stabilize their individuation instead of causing mental fragmentation." Reyes nodded. "Make it happen." Fatima suddenly sat bolt upright, eyes wide. "They're our cousins." The medical bay monitors projected genetic sequences, Thoraxian and human DNA side by side, with unmistakable similarities in key regions. "Not exactly cousins," Dr. Kim corrected, analyzing the data flooding their systems. "More like divergent evolution. According to this data, humans were taken from Earth approximately 50,000 years ago by some precursor race. The genetic markers told a clear story. Ancient humans, transported across the galaxy and subjected to radical genetic engineering. Some adapted to their new environments naturally over millennia. Others were deliberately modified for specific planetary conditions. The Thoraxians are what happens when human genetic material is optimized for collective consciousness," Kim continued, awestruck. "Their insectoid appearance is just convergent evolution based on their homeworld's ecosystem." Fatima spoke again, her voice overlaid with the Queen Mind's multi-toned resonance. "You were the failed experiment. The ones too individualistic to integrate properly, left behind on Earth as rejects." Through their neural connection, images flashed across the medical bay screens. Ancient starships, early humans being collected, vast laboratories where genetic manipulation occurred on an industrial scale. The precursors sought perfect harmony, the Queen Mind explained through Fatima. "They engineered many variants from your base genetic stock. We were the success, unified, efficient, beautiful in our singularity of purpose. You were the aberration, chaotic, self-destructive, wastefully independent." The ship shuddered as the first Thoraxian boarding parties breached the hull. Emergency bulkheads slammed down throughout the vessel. "If we're such failures," Rice challenged, "why do you fear us now?" Fatima's expression shifted. A flicker of uncertainty crossed features that had been coldly alien moments before. "Because you've evolved beyond the parameters," the Queen Mind admitted. "Your individualism should have destroyed you. Instead, it accelerated your development. Your technology, your adaptability. And now your brainwaves unravel the unity we've maintained for eons. Security alerts blared as Thoraxian warriors advanced through the ship. But something unexpected was happening. The first wave of boarders, those in closest proximity to human crew members, began exhibiting erratic behavior. Mid-attack, several warriors stopped, their compound eyes focusing independently, mandibles chattering in apparent confusion. Through the ship's internal cameras, Rise watched as one Thoraxian soldier examined its own claws as if seeing them for the first time. "What am I?" it chittered, before being shot by its still-connected brethren. "The proximity effect is accelerating," Dr. Kim observed. "Their neural architecture changes faster with direct exposure." Meta's voice came through the comm. "Pandora reconfiguration complete, Captain. But we'll need to link all crew neural patterns simultaneously. Everyone will need to connect to the ship's neural interface system." Rise made her decision. "All personnel, prepare for neural linkage. We're going to show them what humanity really means, both our individuality and our ability to work together without sacrificing identity." As the Thoraxian queen mind witnessed Raya's plan through Fatima's connection, for the first time in its million-year existence, it experienced a very human emotion. Fear. "Neural interface active. All stations report," Captain Reyes ordered, adjusting the sleek headset that now connected her consciousness to the ship's network. Around the bridge, crew members did the same. The sensation was disorienting. Echoes of others' thoughts flickering at the edges of perception, yet each mind remaining distinct. Not a hive mind, but a network of independent thinkers temporarily linked. "This is nothing like true unity," the queen mind scoffed through Fatima's voice. "Your minds merely touch. Ours are truly one." "That's exactly the point," Rise responded, nodding to Meta. "Activate modified Pandora protocol." The device pulsed, now broadcasting not just a single human neural pattern, but the balanced interplay of the entire crew's consciousness, a demonstration of what the Thoraxians could become. Individual identities working in concert without surrendering autonomy. Throughout the ship, the effect on the boarding parties was immediate. Thoraxian warriors paused mid-attack, their synchronized movements faltering. Nearly half turned against their hive-bound brethren, protecting human crew members they had been trying to kill moments before. "It's working," Chen reported over the neural link, his thoughts carrying images of Thoraxians fighting each other in the corridors. "They're choosing sides." In engineering, Meta and his team executed a series of precisely coordinated maneuvers impossible without the neural network. Working in perfect synchrony while maintaining individual expertise, they initiated a sequence of micro-jumps, teleporting sections of the ship meters at a time. "The hive mind relies on mathematical prediction algorithms," Meta explained through the link, his excitement bleeding into the shared consciousness. "They can't anticipate what they can't calculate." On the bridge, Rise accessed tactical maneuvers no Thoraxian strategist could comprehend. Instead of the logical, probability-based strategies that governed hive warfare, she implemented chaotic battle plans drawn from Earth's military history, Napoleonic cavalry charges, ancient naval battle formations, even patterns derived from chaos theory. The Indomitable performed the impossible dancing between enemy vessels, causing them to fire upon each other. Through it all, Fatima maintained her connection with the Queen Mind, forcing the alien consciousness to experience human emotions, not just fear, but the full spectrum: hope, anger, joy, compassion, love. "Your chaos is magnificent," the Queen Mind admitted reluctantly through Fatima. "You fight like nothing we have absorbed before." Through the neural battle, the dominant hive began to fracture further, millions of suppressed individualities fighting for expression. Thoraxian ships broke formation, some turning against their fellows, others simply fleeing the battle. In the medical bay, Dr. Kim monitored Fatima's neural patterns with growing concern. "The Queen Mind is fracturing, but it's taking Fatima with it. Her consciousness is being pulled in too many directions." "I can handle it," Fatima insisted, though blood now streamed from her eyes as well as her nose. "I'm showing her everything. Our art, our music, our capacity to both compete and cooperate. She's beginning to understand." On the bridge view screen, the Queen's massive vessel shuddered as internal conflicts erupted throughout its organic structure. Sections of its hull changed color as different factions fought for control. Just as victory seemed within reach, the Queen Mind took desperate action. A third of the Thoraxian fleet suddenly moved into position around the command ship and initiated a synchronized self-destruct sequence, sacrificing themselves to generate an energy wave powerful enough to disable the Indomitable. "Brace for impact," Rise shouted, both verbally and through the neural link. The explosion was blinding, a ripple of destruction that sent the human vessel tumbling through space. Engineering sections reported critical failures cascading through the ship's systems. The Pandora device sparked and sputtered, its delicate components overloading. As emergency lighting flickered on, Rise fought to maintain consciousness. Through the neural link, she felt crew members dying, their lights winking out one by one. The ship's artificial gravity failed, leaving wounded floating grotesquely among debris. Chen pulled himself to Raya's side, blood floating in globules from a gash in his forehead. "Captain, the Thoraxians who turned, they're protecting our people, working with us to seal hull breaches." "The Queen?" Rise asked. "Retreated with her remaining loyal ships. But something's changed. The Separatists are broadcasting openly now, calling for others to join them." Fatima lay unconscious, the neural interface finally having overloaded. Yet even in her unresponsive state, her lips moved in a whisper that only Rise could hear. "They're afraid now, because they've seen what they might become." Captain Rise regained consciousness in a medical bay transformed. 12 hours had passed since the Queen Mind's desperate attack. The ceiling above her rippled with an organic luminescence that hadn't been there before, living Thoraxian tissue integrated with the ship's damaged systems. "Easy, Captain," Dr. Kim's voice came from beside her. "You suffered a concussion when the gravity failed." Rise sat up, wincing at the pain. "Status report." "It's complicated," Kim replied, helping her stand. "You should see for yourself." They made their way through corridors that bore little resemblance to the Indomitable's original design. Thoraxian bioorganic material had been grafted over damaged sections, pulsing with life and light. More striking were the repair teams, one human paired with one Thoraxian, working in synchronized tandem. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Rise asked, watching a human engineer and Thoraxian worker meld circuitry with organic fibers. "Spontaneous neural pairing," Kim explained. "It started with the individuated Thoraxians who protected our crew during the attack. Proximity to humans during a modified Pandora broadcast created a unique effect, a localized field that allows controlled consciousness sharing. They entered engineering, where the transformation was most evident. Chief Engineer Meta stood before a holographic display, his neural interface glowing softly. Beside him, a Thoraxian with distinctive battle scars manipulated the projections with multiple limbs. They moved in perfect synchrony, finishing each other's calculations. "Captain," they spoke in unsettling harmony, then seemed to realize it and separated their voices. Meta continued alone. "This is Klizat, formerly of the dominant Hive's elite guard." "How many casualties?" Rise asked. 27 human crew, Meta reported grimly, and 42 Thoraxian separatists who defended us. "The ship. That's where it gets interesting." Meta gestured to the display. "We couldn't have repaired it conventionally. Too much damage to critical systems. But with Thoraxian bioengineering." Klizat stepped forward. "We have merged our technologies. The ship lives now." "Lives?" Rise repeated. "The Indomitable is becoming a hybrid entity," Kim explained. "Part mechanical, part organic. The Thoraxians can grow replacement components faster than we could fabricate them." Meta and Klizat demonstrated their gestal capabilities by redesigning the ship's power distribution system, creating configurations that neither species would have conceived alone. The quantum efficiency is 300% greater than our original design, Meta said with wonder. Their biological understanding combined with our physical engineering principles. Neither of us could achieve this alone, Klzat added. Together, we transcend both species' limitations. Reyes processed this information as they continued to the communication center. There, Fatima sat upright on a medical cot, her neural interface permanently altered by contact with the Queen Mind. Her eyes had changed, developing facet-like reflective qualities. "Captain," she greeted Reyes. "The Queen Mind has withdrawn to the Homeworld Hub. Their fleet maintains position at the edge of the nebula." "Can you still sense her?" Reyes asked. "Fragments," Fatima replied. "The connection is weaker but persistent. She's confused. Their collective has never experienced internal conflict of this magnitude before. Billions of connected minds suddenly questioning synchronicity." Skrill entered, accompanied by Security Chief Chen. "More separatist vessels have arrived, Captain. They offer assistance and alliance." "The Queen Mind has issued an ultimatum," Chen added. "They'll destroy their entire fleet rather than allow us to reach their homeworld. Apparently, they'd rather commit species suicide than risk complete individuation." Ray studied the transformed ship and crew, human and Thoraxian, working together not as master and slave, nor even as separate allies, but as something unprecedented, distinct consciousnesses in perfect harmony. "We've discovered something neither side anticipated," she said finally. "Not hive mind, not rugged individualism, but a third path, controlled synergy." Dr. Kim nodded. The Pandora device didn't just trigger individuation. It created the possibility for consciousness sharing without loss of identity. "The Queen Mind fears this more than simple individuality," Fatima said quietly, "because it represents true evolution beyond both our current states." Reyes made her decision. "Prepare the modified Pandora device for direct broadcast to the Thoraxian homeworld, not as a weapon, but as an invitation." "An invitation to what?" Chen asked. "To becoming something greater than either of us could be alone," Reyes answered, looking around at the hybrid crew and living ship. "They need to see what's possible." Klzat's antennae quivered with what might have been hope. "You would offer choice rather than conquest." "Exactly," Reyes said. "A third option. Neither absorption nor isolation, but controlled symbiosis." 1 month later, the transformed Indomitable approached Earth. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent sheen, where Thoraxian biotechnology had merged with human engineering. Crystalline sensor arrays extended like delicate antennae, mapping quantum fluctuations no human instruments could detect. On the bridge, Captain Reyes stood before the view screen, the neural implant at her temple glowing softly, a permanent connection to what had become known as the new collective. "Nervous?" asked Tileria, the being who had once been the adversarial Queen Mind. She stood beside Reyes, her royal exoskeleton now adorned with human-made circuitry that enhanced her individual consciousness while maintaining selective connections to her people. "Earth's defense fleet will be expecting the same ship that left," Reyes replied, watching the blue marble grow larger. "Not whatever we've become." Tilaria's compound eyes sparkled with an emotion that would have been impossible for her species just weeks ago. "They will resist, as we did." "Change is never easy," Reyes agreed. The response from Earth came swiftly. 6 dreadnoughts moving to intercept, weapons charge. The transmission flickered on screen, displaying Admiral Zhou's face, now bearing a scar from the factional fighting that had erupted within Fleet Command. "HSS Indomitable, identify yourself immediately," he demanded, then faltered as he recognized Reyes. "Captain, what happened to your ship? And why are there Thoraxians on your bridge?" "It's a long story, Admiral," Reyes replied. "One I think Earth needs to hear before making any decisions about firing on us." Fatima stepped forward, her enhanced neural capabilities allowing her to project directly to Earth's leadership. Through the quantum communications network, she transmitted the complete experience. The truth about the war's origins, the genetic relationship between humans and Thoraxians, the forced individuation, the desperate battle, and finally, the symbiotic transformation that had saved them all. As defense ships lowered their weapons, Engineer Meta and his Thoraxian counterpart, Hlizat, activated the ship-wide neural network. The hybrid crew spoke with one voice while maintaining their unique perspectives. We are not the end of humanity or Thoraxian kind. We are the beginning of something greater. Proof that the universe doesn't demand either cold efficiency or chaotic individuality. The strength of the collective and the innovation of the individual can coexist. Days later, after intense debate, Earth's leadership agreed to establish a controlled contact zone in orbit around Europa. There, volunteers from both species could experience the neural pairing process under careful observation. In the Indomitable's observation lounge, Rise watched the first shuttle of human volunteers approach from Earth. "You once asked why we feared humans so deeply," Taylaria said, joining her at the viewport. "Now I understand. It wasn't just that you threatened our unity, it was that you offered a better alternative. One we couldn't imagine until we experienced it. And many of your people still resist," Rise noted. "As do many of yours," Taylaria countered. "Some humans fear losing their individuality. Some Thoraxians fear the painful awakening of the self. Both fears are valid." "That's why choice matters," Rise said. "Forced unity is slavery. Forced individuality is torture. But chosen connection is evolution," Taylaria finished. On the ship's laboratory deck, Dr. Kim worked alongside a team of hybrid researchers, analyzing data from the neural pairing process. The implications extended far beyond the immediate conflict resolution. "The synergy is producing technological innovations we couldn't have achieved for centuries independently," she reported when Reyes visited. "Quantum computing integrated with biological processing. Faster-than-light communications based on consciousness entanglement. Medicine that can regrow limbs or repair neural damage." "And the long-term neural effects?" Rise asked. "Stability in all participants so far," Kim replied. "The pairing doesn't erase either consciousness, it enhances both. Humans gain access to collective knowledge and processing power. Thoraxians gain creativity and individual perspective." Security Chief Chen approached, his typical skepticism tempered by experience. "The Separatist fleet is requesting permission to establish outposts in the outer solar system. Apparently, they want to learn human art and music." Ray smiled. "Approved." That evening, as Earth rotated into view below them, Ray stood with Taylaria in silent appreciation. Through their neural link, they shared thoughts without words. Was this inevitable? Reyes wondered. Where we always destined to find each other again, cousins across the stars. Perhaps. Taylaria responded in kind. Or perhaps it was simply the next logical step in evolution, finding balance between the one and the many. The Indomitable, the human warship that had entered enemy territory expecting to end a war through destruction, had instead returned with the greatest gift possible: a new way of being. "This is just the beginning," Rise said aloud, watching the stars beyond Earth. "There are more species out there, more minds to understand. And we will meet them," Taylaria agreed, "neither as conquerors nor as prey, but as something entirely new. Something better," Rise added, feeling the gentle hum of countless minds connected through choice rather than force, the birth of the true new collective.